Good afternoon, morning, evening or night, ladies and gentlemen. We are out, not in the jar room today. We're out in the British countryside in winter.
The freezing cold.
Freezing cold, there's fog. And we're doing a weird thing. And we're gonna talk about my car. So for all of the Jarlings who've watched Jar, there's been a car reference called a Nissan Laurel. And the Nissan Laurel is this. This is my 2002 Nissan Laurel. It is the 8th generation, last generation of the Laurel, and it is commonly referred to as a C35.
So it's going away, hence the reason why we're recording this, as kind of a way to document what it is stock, what you've done to it, and what you plan to do to it.
So with my cars, I've owned a fair amount of cars that have ended up being stupid. So we wanted to document this car in this stage now because it is going away for the winter, because as a Japanese import, they kind of fall to bits. And as you can see, it's all damp, it's moist. Nissans especially just fall to bits. They just end up like dust. So to protect it from the winter, I'm sending it to storage. So before that happens, we want to document it in its current stage.
Always read the license plate as attack.
Yeah, I read it as attack as well. It's the only way to remember things, because if you don't actually make a silly little anagram,
yeah,
it just doesn't, you don't remember. So it's L for Laurel, J for James, 2 for how old I am, and then attack.
The 2-year-old attack.
The 2-year-old attack. So this is basically a 2002. They pretty much killed it. So this is the end of the era of like cool Japanese cars. After this, they cut the JZXs, they cut the Silvias, they cut the Skylines. And this is like the end of an era of cars and car design when they were cool. And because it's all box, nothing more.
How did you find it?
So basically, I've been following the Japanese scene since I was like 10. You know, I'd go on YouTube, early YouTube, when there was no like actual knowledge of where to find stuff. It was like you just Google a word and you end up with some weird YouTube video. And I started searching for drifting stuff after Tokyo Drift. And I came across old footage from Japan of guys on the motorways doing 200 mile an hour and clips on the toge where they were drifting them, and I got hooked on that, on just drifting in general. And over time, my what I want changed and the cars I like changed, but eventually I found this YouTube channel that was uploading really old clips from the 80s and 90s with just old Japanese pop. And there was a recurrent theme in all these videos, and it was Laurels. And for some reason, it just clicked. And every single day, I just watched these videos and want a Laurel. I wanted a Laurel. That's the one that stuck with me. So one day, we're playing Apex Legends, and I was like, guys, I found a JZX 100 for sale. And then I started going into this rabbit hole of, I kind of want it. And then the next day, I checked the same ad, and I scrolled down. And this car was on eBay for next to nothing.
Yeah.
It had no bids, nobody was looking at it, and it was too cheap. So I started I'm messaging, I'm just going nuts. I'm like, I'm having this car, I'm having it. And then he sent me loads of videos, and I was like, Jesus Christ.
Insane deal.
I got this car for nothing. So I jumped at the opportunity, I bid $7,000 for it, and I won it at $3,000. And I am basically going to make this car my dream car. I want to basically make it like the cool drift cars you'd see in Japan. And that means it's probably going to die at some point. I'll put some photos here or videos to show what I mean. But anyone who doesn't know drifting is just being really stupid in cars. So what I want to do with this car is make it the type of car, and this is what I've thought forever, is I want this car to look for someone in Japan to see and be like, that's a cool car. And I've even had that experience already as a Japanese visitor from my work literally stopped me and was talking about this car, because even it blew his mind that there's this here in Wiltshire.
It turns heads for sure.
Yeah, and he knew of it, and he was talking about Toyotas and all this, and that is generally like the dream moment when someone from Japan stops you to talk about your car that was only sold in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
So what people don't know and why this car is special is this car is referred to as a JDM, Japanese domestic market. So what that basically means, it was never sold outside of Japan. You basically will never find them outside Japan when they were launched, unless people were importing them. But over time, because of how cheap they were in the Japanese markets, you're thinking 10, 20 years ago, these cars were worth 100 quid, 200 quid. And that's why so many of them are dead, because people would just buy them, smash them up. So, because the market and Japan during its golden era basically made a car for every interest, every niche. Big four-doors like this, sporty four-doors, luxurious four-doors. Every manufacturer had like 10 different models that were all the same, just because the market kind of allowed for that. So what you ended up with was a whole bunch of cars where, you know, the economy was good, everyone was just buying cars all the time. And then the market came out, and because all these cars have been made, they were all really cheap. And what that means is a lot of them were exported. So there's a lot of countries where, because of how cheap these cars were, certain countries just latched onto them. And weirdly enough, these, especially in Trinidad and Tobago, I'm in the Trinidad and Tobago groups and there's just loads of them. They're like selling them for nothing. It makes me sad. And for all you Kiwis and Aussies, you know what these are because you got all of them, you dicks. So with this being my dream car, basically, what I want to do is replace the engine. I want to strip this out because this is a 2-litre naturally aspirated RB20, perfectly great engine, but I want turbo, I want big power, and I'm going to get an RB25 DET, and it's going to make 400 horsepower, and it's going to be silly.
What's its current horsepower?
150. Like, this engine is so beautifully smooth and lovely, and I love it, but it just needs to come out for the dream, and it's going to cost me a lot of money, and it's a pain. But as you can tell from how clean it is, like, I got this car in pretty much mint condition, and it's got all the good bits, like all the Japanese and this that is a genuine Nissan optional extra strut bar that I found in Japan, and I managed to get for nothing, and I've imported it over, and I'm going to put that on a shelf somewhere just because I like it. Because it's like, with this hobby, a lot of people don't know that people like collecting the original parts back from when, like, the optional extras, because Japan and manufacturers sold loads of extra bits you can add on to your car, and because so much time has passed, they've kind of all disappeared. So stuff like the GTRs, the Skylines, the Silvias, people like collecting the wear bits, and I've got the brochure from this car new, and they are an optional extra, and I managed to find that in Japan. So it's a small detail, but it's just a little bit something.
Niche on niche.
It is, and you know, there's a giveaway there for what is to come, or what I've already done. We can go into that, but generally speaking, it's a very clean engine, and as I have said on Jar before, I import parts of these and I sell parts of these. So I've got a website dedicated to selling parts. Like, I've got 5-6 grills, headlights, other lights. I'm slowly importing spare parts to be able to keep this car going in case of a stupid Range Rover Moto crashes into me and wires it off. But interestingly enough, this grill is actually off a Mercedes-Benz. I think it's a C-Class, but you wouldn't notice. And I came about this because I saw loads of guys in Japan have really cool ones. So I found it for sale in the auctions, and I spent far too much money on it because I thought it was like this cool one-off custom work. And then I got it, and then I realised, if you can zoom in there, they've literally just cable tied the actual grille in. They've cable tied the Mercedes-Benz grille into the frame, and I spent 600-700 quid on this grill, and then I realised it was cable tied together, and I just laughed because it's such a Japanese.
What would one of those grills like cost otherwise?
100 quid. And I just found it funny, but I think I'm the only person in the UK or America that has this kind of grill. But like, this grill and what people do in Japan is the information doesn't really leak out, because Japan's internet is very It's like in a box, and if you don't know how to get into the box, you don't get it. So I browse all of the special Japanese social medias, and I find stuff about you can do this to this car, you can do that, and you get all this weird niche information that most people wouldn't know. And this grille fitting this car is one of them. So I think I'm the only one in the West that has a Mercedes-Benz grille on my Laurel. Small details, but you So what we've got on here as well, this being my car, I'm very niche about my tastes. So you've got the Nismo parts, but as you can probably have already seen, I don't have the same wheels because I'm a bit of a weirdo and I like wheels. So I have multiple sets of wheels because in the Japanese scene, having odd wheels is kind of cool. So these are my lovely...
So 2 pairs or each
two
one?
pairs. I bought these from Japan. So basically all of the parts I buy are all from Japan or originated in Japan. So these came off of a drift car in Japan. I bought them just because I like them, but they're like the most obvious choice for drift wheels and they look cool. So I bought them, and then I wanted another set of them, but I'd have to wait 3 months to get them. So I just bought those wheels because I could, but I don't really like them. I just bought them anyway.
What's wrong with them? I like those ones.
I don't like the colours. It's just all the wheels I'm going to buy are going to be that colour, and it's just not enough for it. I need more colour. So we've got right there, we've got some Work Emotion T7Rs. Great wheels. They're really light, they look cool. And I'm going to improve or expand my Work Emotion wheels because I really like Work Emotion. But yeah, they're the 2 wheels I do have on the car at the moment. Will change. I've had to clear. I've hammered down and tried to get clearance. And so I basically used a hammer on that, and I used a hammer on that as well. So I just smacked it with a hammer until it cleared. Because that's the Japanese way. You don't do it properly, you use a hammer. And this is where this is the great contradiction of James, because those are stickers.
True, what the hell?
And now we have a beautiful interior with genuine wood, mahogany wood, imported from Italy, mahogany wood, Nissan special. And that's the fit there, right there. That's what car people are going to cringe at right now, because it's auto. Who would have thought I'd own an auto? But I did, and I own it now. But that's because it was cheap. I mean, what we got here. So, actually, we might go on the other side for a better view. So with this car, as you can see, there's a lot of cigarette burns. You know, it's a Japanese car. The cigarette burns come as standard, and it's not a Japanese import. Unless it has your cigarette burns. But for some reason I decided that I need a bit of a smoker's aesthetic with this car, so I bought a genuine 1960s cigarette case from Japan. It's a Damascene cigarette case, and it is absolutely gorgeous. And to accompany my beautiful cigarette case, I also have a 1980s, I believe, inspired mood lamp and cigarette lighter that once you click it in, you put your cigarette in and you burn your cigarette perfectly, but it's also a mood lamp, so it sets the mood. And one of the things with Japanese imports that people like me obsess over is things like this ETC machine here. So it's fitted on all Japanese cars, so that when you go to the toll booths on the motorways, you slip your credit card or debit card in, and it automatically charges the toll for your toll. And that's the one that makes all the noise when you turn your car on. Mine doesn't, because I've had the stereo replaced, but that is something that proves that it is a Japanese import, and that is a small detail that everyone in the hobby kind of loves. So I've got mine there. I'm never going to remove it, and it's going to stay there forever. And what we've got here is we've got wires hanging out the dashboard because they just are. Another detail that a lot of people aren't going to know is that you'll struggle to see it, on the dashboard there is a small sticker, like right there, that sticker. That is the tax, basically, information from Japan. So that proves when it's exempt. So that is a newer one, so that proves this car's been exported from Japan in around 2019. Small detail. My dad also owns a Japanese import and he removed that and I cried. I actually just felt violated.
So did the guy who you bought this off, was he the one who imported it?
No. See, the origins of this car is quite strange in that I don't actually know any of the history in Japan or even who imported it. I got a story, the owner, he bought it from a group of people who, I believe, from what I've been told, that's a low origin. They are a drift team in the UK and they have some of the genuinely best drift cars in the West. And I've been told that they imported a bunch of Laurels for like personal use. And this was the cleanest one out of the bunch. And apparently the previous owner like wanted it and had to like beg them to sell it to him. I've not confirmed with low origin if that's true, but that's what I've been told. And it came in no history. I generally know nothing about this car. Its story pretty much starts with me. And I think that's kind of romantic. Because it's like, I have no idea what man in Japan owned this, man or woman owned this. But I just know it's mine now. And I'm going to do sick stuff to it and it's going to be amazing.
You gotta show the back seats.
Oh, you mean my Margaret Thatcher's living room? So with this being sold originally as a luxury car, it has some rear seats that are generally the best thing in the world. You just sit in and you just disappear into comfort zone, comfort realm. Yeah. You can fall asleep in this car and it's great.
It might as well be a sofa in the back.
It is. It's the most comfy car to be driven anywhere in, but I don't get driven in it because it's mine. So I've never actually experienced what it's like to be in the back because I'm just at the front. And then here's the thing is, I am debating whether or not to strip this car out, including the rear seats, and ruin it.
Nah.
So with this car basically being not my daily anymore, because it costs me £100 a week on fuel. £100 a week on fuel. So I decided to be sensible for once in my life, which has allowed the plan for this car to radically change, because I don't have any plates to spin now, I guess. I don't need to make it a good car to drive. I don't need to make it reliable. I can just make it look cool and go cool, and that's literally all it's going to become. And because of that, it might get a bit extreme. I might strip out all the interior. It's going to have a big body kit. It's going to be painted pink. It's going to make good noises and it's going to be silly. And that's all I want. Like, what is your thoughts on this car, bro? Because you were shocked when I bought this because you didn't expect to go from the cars I had to an actual boat.
Well, yeah, it being an automatic crazy, it being a boat that you can't really slam in the same way you slammed your previous cars.
I had cars that you can't go on speed bumps over because they just grind on the floor. Like, it wasn't slammed, but it was too low and it made driving awful. Like, my Mazda I had was just loud, and it's actually damaged my ears because of how loud it was. So just turning up from those type of cars to what is basically a luxury cruiser. It's an aircraft carrier. It is Air Force One, you might as well say. It is an executive, lovely, nice car that you guys don't want me to ruin it.
No, I like it kind of as it is, to be honest. It's clean.
It is clean for what I paid for it. It's extremely clean, but I just don't think you see the potential.
Well, I'm just thinking about what you want to take it on a track and.
Okay, so I want to drift it, and I will put in drifting footage so people can understand. don't stay the same for long, because with drifting you do crash. It's basically a part of it to crash into a barrier and destroy the car. So that's what's going to happen to this probably. And with the UK being generally one of the worst countries in the world for getting into drifting because of just how limited it is. So you can't really go to many drift days or drift track days to actually drive cars like these the way they should. Which means the only way to get into drifting here is to do it. You basically can't learn to drift without spending a lot of money on like hiring tracks and whatnot. Or you just do it illegally at midnight, which is what most people do. And if you want to start and learn to drift on the streets, you're going to destroy the car instantly. Because any type of small incident, you'll whack down a tree, you've destroyed the suspension, it's dead. And that's what I want to do to it, and you guys don't want me to do that.
It's such a rare vehicle though, like getting parts, if you did damage it, like you're kind of screwed.
That's why I'm importing them. See, I'm thinking ahead. I know that
you're planning your crashes before you make them.
Yes. So like I've already imported a new rear bumper. This is basically all the aero on this is stock. So I bought a rare out of production bumper from the early 2000s that was in a bush. I spent a lot of money on it, but then I'm gonna buy that bumper, but then I'm gonna have to buy a replica of the bumper because I don't want to destroy the expensive bumper on a tree. So it's like we refer to the goon hole a lot, but this car's the ultimate goon hole, because it's not just the car. These cars, JGM cars, Japanese imports, have become a fashion accessory. They are what all the rappers buy when they want to get Instagram likes. They're not cars driven by people like me anymore, because people like me have been priced out of the market by influencers basically. So all the parts are now expensive, the cars are now expensive, you know. Like a car that everyone will know is the Toyota AE86, the initial D car, the tofu car. They were so cheap that you can generally pick them up for nothing, but now they're worth 30, 40k. This is a level of inflation that you can't even get on the stock market. This is insane, and yet somehow it's keep growing. So like, if I crash this car and damage it, I can't buy another one. I'm priced out of the market I'm getting into. So how does anyone else get into it? I don't know. But that's why I'm staying true to it by, even though I can't afford it anymore, and if I destroy it, I can't buy another one, I'm still gonna drive it like it should. Because I'm stupid.
Any other details before this beauty goes into hiding?
I'm sad about it going into hiding, but at the same time, I know when it comes out, it's going to become insane.
And I'm sure you're not sad for your bank account.
No. Like, I'm paying about £150 storage a month on it, but I save that much in fuel, so it just doesn't cost me anything to keep it in storage, which is really good, because these cars are only increasing in price. And it's like, when I change the gearbox and modify everything else, it would still be cheaper than buying one now. Like, buying a turbo one that's manual now is like, I've seen one for myself at 18k, and I bought this so cheap that I'll be cheaper than that when it's done, which is insane. But it's doing it the old-fashioned way in Japan. It's like the cool way of you buy the crap one and you make it cool. That's the cool way to do things. There's nothing cool about buying the one that's already been built and done.
Yeah, story then.
Yeah, and it's like I'm doing it gradually. So it's like when I need to buy a house, I could sell it. I'm not going to, because I love it. I'll try and put some examples somewhere in the video of good, cool laws, so you can understand what the obsession is, because I'm obsessed. I'm so deep in the goon hole, but I'm considering buying another one, just so I've got a spare one. Just so that if anything goes wrong, I've got another one.
So if it was like a Pokemon, it's in its first stage.
Yeah, pretty much. I think this is the problem with the car hobby, is you don't stop. Especially if you're in the Japanese car hobby, you don't ever stop. It's always evolving, and it gets out of hand. But the point, once it gets so far, you can't bring it back. You've got to commit to making it fucked up. And this is stage 1 of possibly 4 or 5. It depends how far I want to go. Because I think I want to make it lighter, which means carbon fibering panels, and it's just infinite amount of money to do that. Don't ever get into the hobby. Don't watch this video and mock me for how stupid I am. Because I am stupid. As you're someone who doesn't understand as much this hobby and why we do it, what questions do you have as a
Well, it's more
as a normal?
This is the kind of car that makes a normal understand a bit more, you know?
Do you really think it makes a normal understand?
It makes a normal like me understand a bit more.
Is that not because you're in my circle?
That's definitely one of the reasons. But I mean, it is from an era where cars they were cooler, like they had a better design, visually at least.
I must have done that on my Renault. I think I did.
Really?
Yeah. Oopsie, crashed into my other car.
Fuck. Do you have a spare bumper?
No. Ooh. It's fine, the bumper's getting me paid anyway. How the fuck did I do that? This is the thing, when you drive a tiny little car, you just don't realise how big they are. Oops. That right there, first hand is damage I've done today.
That's the question. What damage have you done to this car?
None.
Really? You've never bumped it on anything?
No, the thing that happened with this car is the first day I took it to work. I parked out front, outside the entrance. Then by a visitor bay, someone crashed into it. The first day I had it at work, crashed into it completely, pulled the bumper out on this side. Pulled the bumper out, pulled that out, unclipped it all, damaged it, but I had it repainted pretty quick. He paid for it, to be fair, so it's fine.
That's good.
But it's just luck. Because I'm going to get the whole car painted because it does have...
Just the odd nick.
20 years. For a car that is 20 years old, it's in very good condition. So I just need to clean it up. And it's been a long-going debate of what colour do I paint it. Because I want to go like a fluorescent pink, not fluorescent, pearlescent pink or purple. And you are very much keep it white.
Yeah, I reckon it should stay white. People should say in the comments what they think. Right?
Yeah, tell me, let me know. Dictate what I'm gonna do to this car to me, so I don't feel as bad as wasting my money on it. Like I've probably dropped 5 to 6k on it already, and this is basically how it is at the moment. So you're wondering how expensive things can get. Really expensive. Like this car, when it's done, will be a house deposit. Let's put it that way.
The things we do for love.
I don't think there's much more to add about this car. It's my lovely Nissan, and it's lovely and it's simple and it's nice until I ruin it and ruin my life. Every part of my life will be ruined by Nissan.